everyone and welcome back to my channel. So a few updates for you. I'm still ill. I've been ill for a few days, well actually no, a couple of days. It's just a cold, but on Wednesday I was just completely out of it, so I was in bed all day. I've only just got my voice fully back, but feeling a little under the weather still. So I have got a halogen heater next to me, which is probably why I look a bit yellow. It's glowing brightly to keep me warm, because also the extension work on our house has begun, so outside is total chaos, and to top it all off, our boiler blew, so we have no heating. So not only am I ill, I'm freezing, there's no heating in the house, and every time I walk up out the back door I get covered in mud, but it's fine because it'll all be worth it in the end. So I'm sorry that it's Friday and I still haven't got my video, but hopefully this will be up by the end of the day. That's my aim anyway. Anyway, I am babbling on. Today I want to share with you a few tips on how to measure yourself for dressmaking patterns. So this is a couple of tips that I learned from different people, especially my mum, when it comes to measuring for patterns. And it was only the other day that I had to phone her again and ask her some questions, because different patterns definitely have different ways of measuring in terms of your body size measurement, and the finished measurements can be really different. But I've had to get it into my head that just because your waist measurement is A doesn't mean that the finished measurement will be A, because the fit of the garment is going to be completely different. So I just thought that this is another way for me to get information that I've learnt recently over to you, and hopefully it will just make it easier when you come to dressmaking on what you're doing. So even though I've got a warm cozy jumper on, I'm going to take this off, because step one is to wear a thin item of clothing. So the first measurement, I've just got a pattern here, which is the Simple Sew cocoon dress pattern. I got this out to remind me to actually make one, because my mum has been showing me up and she's made like 3 of these dresses already because she loved the pattern so much, and I haven't even made my first one, and I've had the fabric since like August, so I really need to get on this. I might make one this weekend if I have time, but I just thought a dress pattern is the easiest way to show you what measurements they require and just to discuss them. So on the back of the pattern, sometimes the measurements are on the back, sometimes they're inside. There is the fabric requirements and the finished garment measurements. So the finished garment measurements are just what the fit is like on you. But inside there will be where the instructions are. Let's have a look. Okay, well there's no body measurements, but that's fine, we can work with this. So sometimes on a pattern they will have the body measurements and then the finished garment measurements to compare them. So we'll just pretend that we're going to do that, and we're going to pretend that they have the body measurements on here as well, and then we can work out the difference. So the first on this dress pattern especially is bust, waist and neck to hem. And that's basically, neck to hem is just basically the length of the dress on you. So if you're short in the body and long in the legs, like, it's going to work out differently. So it's a good way to get a good height measurement, because you don't want to make something that's too long for your body or too short for your body. And sometimes they ask for, especially for a fitted dress, they'll ask for a hip measurement as well. So we're just going to do all the measurements. So for a bust measurement, how I would do it is to put it around my back. This is just tips for measuring yourself as well, because we don't all have a slave that can do it for us. So I put it around my back like so. I'm going to have to like move quite a lot. Maybe I'll tilt the camera. So for a bust measurement, I would put it around my back like so, and then bring it around the front. Now, also a good tip for you is, if it's a fitted garment and a fitted dress style, you want to breathe out, like, I say breathe out, breathe in, sorry. Breathe in so that it pushes your chest out a bit more, because if you do something fitted and then you do it to yourself breathing in, or like, sorry, breathing out, when your chest is lower, it's going to be really tight across your chest. So puff your chest out basically is what I'm saying. So get it right on the widest part of your bust, all the way around the back, and then take that measurement down. So just make sure you're like pushing out a bit, and then note that bust measurement down. So if on your pattern it has body measurements, there'll be categories, and then you can just circle which one your bust measurement is closest to. If it comes up smaller, so say mine's 83, say the pattern has 82 and then the next one's 84, I'd always go for the 84. But that's just me because I don't like really tight fitting clothes. So now for your waist measurement. Now to get your waist measurement, if I pull my top tight, if you lean to one side, where your waist bends, where you get that really sharp bend, that's where you measure your waist from. So it's where it creases both sides. So mine would be here. And again, puff your belly out if you want to make sure it's not tight fitting. And then note that measurement down. And then hips. Now, different patterns will tell you different things, but I measure my hips by going on the widest part, and it's usually sort of about 4 or 5 inches down from my waist measurement. That's where my widest part is. But you might want to just double check that it's on like the fullest part of your bum, and then going around the fullest part of your thighs as well. So mine are quite high, well, I say high, mine are sort of midway, and that's the measurement that I take for my hip measurement, which on me is 91. So then again, note this down. Then to get the neck to hem measurement, I would put the 0 end of my tape measure where I like my dress to finish. So you're meant to do this on your back because that's sort of like the longest part of your body, but when you're measuring yourself it's really hard to do that. So just measure it from the front. It doesn't matter, in my opinion it doesn't matter. So but just do it high up on your neck. So if like this cocoon dress is a V-neck, don't measure it from here where your V-neck will finish. Measure it from higher up where like a t-shirt would be. So again, I would stand up, see where I want my dress to finish. On this, yeah, I know you can't see, I'm sorry, but I would do it just below, well, sort of just above my knee is where I like dresses to finish. And then to my neck, I'd go here, and then I'd hold that measurement with my finger, and then I've measured 91. So 91 centimetres is my sort of ideal length. So then I'd go to this, and of course these are all in inches. 91 is roughly 36 inches. So on here, this is quite a nice length pattern. It's above the knee anyway, generally. And a 36-inch length would be a size 10 in this dress. But then comparing my bust measurement, which I think was 83, which would be 32.5. So again, this isn't a fitted pattern. As you can see, it's quite like loose fitting. So the smallest bust measurement would be a 36.5 inch. So that's 4 inches more than my bust measurement, and that's a size 6. And then the waist measurement, I'm just going to do my waist measurement again. And this time I'm going to do it in inches to make it easier. So again, this isn't tight fitting, especially not on the waist. So the smallest waist measurement is 37, and that's a good 10 inches more than my waist, but then I know that it's not a fitted dress, so that's fine. So what I would personally do is maybe do a size 6 pattern for the bust and waist, but then because I want it a bit longer, I'd go for a size 10 in length. So I just double check that it's only a ½ inch difference really, so I might cut out the size 10 length just to make it a bit longer, and then I can always take it up if I need to. So yeah, that's how I'd measure for that. And again, like with skirts or anything like that, to measure the length of them, the best thing I would recommend is to, again, 0 hanging down, the rest of the measurements in your hand, and just see where if you stand in front of a mirror, where roughly you like skirts to finish. And another good way of doing that is if you have a favourite skirt in your wardrobe, put that on, and then in the mirror hold the 0 where that hem finishes, and then hold it at your waist. Now also to do this, I'm going to sneeze. So when you have your skirt on, just make sure that you're measuring from your waist measurement to the hem, because you might want to read through your pattern, as I've made this mistake before, but depending on where a skirt or a short pattern sits on your hips is how they're measuring the length of it or the height of your skirt. Sometimes it will say the waistband sits an inch below the waist or 2 inches below the waist or on hips, or do you know what I mean? So just make sure that where you're measuring from, you correlate that to the pattern and what the pattern's telling you to do. So recently I was making a skirt for Minerva Cross, which I will put a link in below, and it was a simplicity pattern with like a geometric front, and it was like a skirt, so it looked like a skirt from the front but it was actually a pair of shorts. And I phoned Mum because the finished garment hip measurement was 4 inches bigger than my hips, and I was worried that because of the American sizing things it was going to be really, really big on me. But then Mum pointed out that patterns that use stiffer fabrics, or they recommend stiffer fabrics, they'll have measurements to give you more movement. So that 4 inches of movement means that I can actually wear it, because if it was fitted to my hips and it was made in a cotton, as soon as you sit down it would rip. So that's why there is some give in the measurements like that. Which I know the other day I thought it was going to come out massive, but it fits me fine. Whereas if you were using a jersey or a stretch fabric, you'd want it to be fitted, so you'd want to have it to your hip measurement so that it didn't look baggy. And I mean, this is just something to note down for when you are using different fabrics to what they're recommending. If the pattern requires stiffer, more sturdy fabrics and you want to use a soft jersey, then just make sure that you might want to take in the seams a bit, because otherwise their measurements to give you more room to move means that in a stretch fabric that's now going to be really, really baggy and over drapey. So just make sure that you correlate your measurements to the types of fabric you're using as well. So I really hope that all makes sense and you've learned something from this video. You might need to go and rewatch this whole video and read it back and write some things down, because I've just blabbled all the way through this. But I hope it has been useful to you, and if you do find measuring yourself quite difficult, or you've never got it quite right between the measurements and the actual fit of your garment, I hope this has helped you. Please comment below with any questions if you want me to answer them, and I will try my best. I'm no expert, but I promise I will try. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next week for another video. Happy handmade, everyone!